You have tried everything and your score is still CLB 4, 5 or 6 in Expressio Oral. That is the speaking section of the TEF Canada exam. Or even if you are someone who is about to start his or her preparation for the TEF Canada exam, this video is for you because I'm gonna decode the real scoring grid the examiners use, line by line, and we'll figure out what you need to reach that CLB 7 or higher score. So let's get started. Hello everyone, I'm Aishwarya and we are going to master Section A of the TEF Canada speaking exam as to get the maximum points on the evaluation sheet of the examiner. Before we dive deeper in this sheet, let me give you a brief about the pattern. So Section A is 5 minutes role play where you act as a caller seeking information about something, often an advertisement, and your job is to ask questions and to get as many answers possible. In other words, be curious and gather maximum information. Disclaimer, this will be a long video, so sit tight, and after that you will not need anything to actually get that CLB 7 on your result sheet. Section A might seem shorter, but it is crucially important. It sets the tone for your speaking exam and demonstrates your interactive communication skills. A strong performance here can boost your overall score and confidence for the rest of the exam. According to the TEF Canada evaluation grid, Section A is assessed on 3 key criteria. First is pertinence du questionnement, means the relevance and thoroughness of your questioning. Second, prise d'initiative et gestion de l'imprévu, your ability to take initiative and handle the unexpected in the conversation. And third, qualité des échanges, means the overall quality and natural flow of the exchange. Throughout this video, I'll walk you through each criteria one by one. For each, I'll give you examples and explain you how and what makes each level sound different. And I'm pretty sure by the end, you will have a clear roadmap to improve your Section A performance. Let's start with the first, relevance of questioning. What is it? It means how relevant, appropriate, and complete your questions are. Examiners check whether you asked all the important questions related to the advertisement. Did you cover all the aspects possible, all the possible details about the topic? In short, this criteria is about asking the right questions to get the information you need without going off or missing the key points. Let's look how a student's performance in questioning might differ across CLB levels. First, for CLB 4, that is a B1 lower level. At this level, you can ask basic questions, but they might be simple and limited. You're likely to stick to very familiar topics and straightforward who, what, when, where queries will happen. Some important details would be or could be overlooked. Grammatical mistakes in question formations are common. For example,
c'est combien? Où est-ce que ça se passe? Quand est-ce que ça commence?
These questions are understandable but not very detailed. The focus is on essential facts only. In short, using some common questions. Let's move to CLB 5, a B1 higher. A CLB 5 speaker starts to ask more questions and slightly more detailed ones. You can maintain a simple conversation, and there's an evidence of connected sentences now. You might remember to ask about several different details, not just one. For example,
quels sont les horaires d'ouverture, s'il vous plaît? Est-ce que le prix inclut le matériel?
There is more initiative to cover different points like time, price, what's included. However, you might still miss some less obvious details. The questions are on topic and mostly appropriate. That's good, but perhaps not yet exhaustive. So let's move further to CLB 7. At this level, persistence of questioning really shows. You can ask a wide range of relevant questions, that too with confidence. Your questions cover almost all important aspects of the ad. According to CLB 7 description, a B2 speaker can communicate with more confidence in various situations and present information on range of topics. For example,
Pourriez-vous me préciser ce qui est inclus dans le tarif? J'aimerais savoir s'il y a des conditions particulières pour l'inscription.
these questions are politely phrased, specific, and on point. LB7 candidate usually does not forget major details. You would ask about the price, time, location, requirements, etc., making sure that you have a complete picture. And the examiner can easily tell you have done your homework. But this is not the end. Let's talk about CLB 9, that is C1 level. At CLB 9, your questioning is thorough and sophisticated. You demonstrate near professional mastery. No important detail goes unaddressed. You even anticipate information that might not be obvious. For instance, a C1 level student could ask,
Serait-il possible d'obtenir plus de détails sur les modalités d'annulation au cas où? Pourriez-vous me décrire le déroulement typique de l'activité, s'il vous plaît?
these kinds of questions shows foresight. You are not just asking obvious questions like price or time, but also less obvious yet meaningful questions like cancellation policy, how does it work, additional options, and whatnot. This phrasing is elegant and varied, using conditional or even more complex structures. At this level, your grammar and vocabulary rarely impede you, so you can focus on detail and depth. And the result, the examiner feels nothing is missing. Your questions were spot on, exhaustive, and very appropriate to the context. Now, let us move to the second criteria, taking initiative and handling the unexpected. What is it? This criteria evaluates how you drive the conversation and cope up with surprises. In section A, prise d'initiative means you don't just passively ask one question and fall silent. You take the control and ask following up questions and guiding the exchange. Gestion de l'imprévu means if something unexpected or unscripted happens, you can handle it calmly. The examiner might give you an unexpected answer or a twist. For example, désolé, il n'y a pas plus de place disponible pour ce cours. And how do you react? Do you freeze? Or do you adapt and keep the conversation going? At higher levels, candidates are expected to manage these movements smoothly, almost like a fluent native speaker handling a sudden change. Let's see how this plays out for CLB 4 up to CLB 9. For CLB 4, at a low intermediate level, taking initiative is minimal. You are likely to rely on the examiner to keep the conversation going. You might ask a question, get an answer, and then hesitate, unsure how to follow up, unless you have a scripted list. If something unexpected happens, says the examiner gives you an information you did not anticipate, a CLB4 speaker can be frustrated. For example, if told, il faut réserver avant la fin de la semaine, you must book by the end of the week. Out of the blue, you might respond with a confused pause or a very simple d'accord. So managing the unexpected is challenging at this level. You might not have the language to smoothly ask a follow-up question. And instead, you just drop that line of inquiry. In terms of initiative, a CLB4 often sticks strictly to prepared questions and may not naturally ask for clarifications or additional info unless prompted. CLB 5 or higher. By CLB 5, you show a bit more initiative. You can handle a simple two-way exchange and even some unplanned returns. If the examiner answers isn't what you expected, you will attempt to respond. Perhaps you will ask a basic follow up or express a reaction. The language might not be fancy, a bit and a straightforward question, yet it demonstrates emerging ability to adapt. Initiative wise, you might start asking new questions based on what you hear and not just reading off your list. Let's check out CLB 7 student. At CLB 7, taking initiative and handling surprises become a strong point. You can lead the conversation more naturally. This means you ask questions proactively before the examiner has to prompt you. If the answer is incomplete or hints at something more, you seize the opportunity to dig deeper. For example, if the examiner says le tarif est de 200 € et il faut déposer un chèque de caution, a B2 speaker might automatically follow with d'accord. Si je peux me permettre, que se passe-t-il avec le chèque de caution à la fin? Est-il restitué? Showing initiative to clarify the unexpected mention of the deposit. So, if the examiner challenges you and throws a curveball, and you are ready with an appropriate response without being freezed. Essentially, the CLB 7 candidate can keep the conversation flowing, even when it deviates from the expected path, which is exactly what the examiner wants to see. You appear resourceful, engaged, and not easily thrown off the game. Let's check out CLB 9. At CLB 9, you nearly a conversational pro. Initiative comes almost effortlessly. You often lead the dialogue from start to finish, like setting the stage yourself. Throughout, you ask questions in sequence that feels logical. And if the examiner answers wander, you bring back the focus politely. Handling the unexpected at C1 is where you really shine. Nothing can freeze you. For instance, suppose the examiner says, en fait, ce cours nécessite un niveau avancé en pédestrie. A CLB 9 speaker would reply smoothly, ah, d'accord, faut-il déjà savoir faire des macrons? So here you can hear how fluently the candidate absorbed the surprise and immediately turned it into a follow-up question. There's no long pause, no panic, just adapting and continuing. At this level, you can also use advanced strategies like paraphrasing the unexpected info to show you understand before moving on. Si je comprends bien, il faudrait déjà avoir de l'expérience. C'est bien ça. This confirms the surprise details and buys you a moment to think of your next question. Let's move to the third category, quality of interaction. What is it? It refers to how smooth, natural, and engaging the conversation is. It is overall vibe of the dialogue. Think it in a way you are having a real two-way conversation or an exchange, or is it a robotic Q&A? Quality of interaction includes things like a logical flow, a good listening and responding, even politely opening and closing, and an appropriate tone. The examiner wants the exchange to feel like friendly yet professional conversation, not an interrogation or a memorized script. Here's how the quality of exchange typically improves from CLB 4 to CLB 9. For CLB 4, at this level, the interaction might feel a bit broken or textbook like. You probably rely on the list of questions without much natural flow. between them. For example, you may not respond to the examiner's answer beyond a simple d'accord. Then you jump to the next question in your list, regardless what was just said. This can be, or this usually makes the conversation feel choppy, and hence you land up with CLB 4. CLB 5. The quality starts to improve. You remember to sprinkle polite phrases and acknowledgement. The small additions already make an exchange friendlier. During the conversation, a CLB 5 might attempt to connect the ideas. For example, oh d'accord, c'est le matin, merci. Et l'adresse, c'est où exactement? Here, the merci, the acknowledgement of the info before moving on to the next gives you a sum, gives you a good connection between your different type of questions. You're also getting a little more comfortable, maybe using fillers, ah or d'accord in the right places, which actually can improve the flow if used correctly. They may still have some abrupt jumps. Maybe you ask something unrelated out of the box, but which you just remembered suddenly. But overall, the progress towards is more a coherent dialogue. For CLB 7, now the interaction quality becomes notably good. As a B2 speaker, you can adapt your style and register to the situation, which means you strike a polite but natural tone for a formal info call. You likely use connecting words and phrases like je comprends, à propos, vous parlez, est-ce que, and so on. These connectors make your speech flow like conversation rather than a QA session. You also listen actively, perhaps even rephrase a bit of the answers to show understanding. This level of engagement enhances the quality, and the overall feeling is that of a smooth exchange. The examiner feels like he is talking to someone who can hold their thoughts in French. Perhaps you are not a complete native, but certainly comfortable and effective in your conversation. And hope this video gave you a good insights about how you should actually prepare for the CLB 7 or even more score. Even I would request you to note down these points and work accordingly. We have pointed out major mistakes made by the students. For example, not giving appropriate responses, not able to hold on to the conversation, or even not able to give back the actual responses. So, if you are not able to do any one of this, you are actually at CLB 4, and there is no chance that you by mistake get a CLB 7 score. So it's very important to understand what is actually required for CLB 7 and then prepare accordingly. So I'll meet you in the next video where I'll be explaining you more about how to prepare for your speaking section to get that CLB 7 score. Till then, merci et au revoir.